The Infor Configure Price Quote is a suite of applications with product configuration at the heart of it. Surrounded by product configuration are supporting tools. We have our design automation, which allows the configurator to drive and generate both 2D and 3D product images and drawings. We also have our document automation that generates professional proposals, bid packages, spec documents, things like that. And our sales portal takes all of those capabilities, makes it web-enabled to allow dealers and distributors to quote and order configured products. So there is a full suite of products and options, but today we're really going to focus on CloudSuite Industrial and Sightline and the capabilities that are built directly into that application. All right, so I'm going to jump right into the application. Moved over into CloudSuite Industrial Sightline. And I want to just introduce some of the capabilities of the configurator and your options. So first of all, you can really do configuration at a variety of places, whether it's for sales purposes, for quoting and estimating, customer service, order entry, as well as even at a production or job level. So many places that you can start or launch configuration from. Of course, it flows into the normal parts of Sightline from the header to the line items. The configurator will automatically generate jobs with then routings and bills of materials. And so it sits right in the middle of Sightline, in the middle of that ordering process, ordering to manufacturing process, and dynamically generates everything that's required. And then just some of the capabilities that we're going to see today, things that the system is capable of. Obviously, a lot of capabilities around pricing and discounting. We have a nice guided selling approach to configuration. From the job side, we can do multi-level configurations, jobs and sub-jobs and sub-assemblies. Obviously, our routing and bill of material creation, lots of options around notes and special instructions, and then a few other things around new part creation, new line item creation. So those are some of the things that we're going to see today. And what I'll do is just go through a couple of different examples so you can see it in action and see those capabilities. So I'm going to move over to customer orders. Again, I could do this from an estimate in Sightline, from a quote, and it works essentially the same in both areas. But I have a customer order that I've just put in, and I'm going to move into the line items form. I could also do the exact same thing at the quick entry form. If you prefer the quick entry form, it works exactly the same. But I'm going to start by entering the product that we're interested in. And this first example is a forklift. And the important thing to point out is this is basically a generic starting point for configuration. So I know that I want a forklift, but there's a lot of details and options about that forklift that the configurator is going to guide me through. So this is really just my launching point or my generic item to get me started. And of course, you'll notice that there's no price right now because, of course, that's based off of the configuration. And then I'll also just mention that the system is going to build a job for me. Of course, that's all going to be based on the configuration again. So right over here, the system knows that this is a configurable item versus one of your standard or stocked items. And so at any time, I can launch into configuration. And this is going to then lead me through the questions and options and guide me through the process. If I'm a new user, there's a lot of nice capabilities that can help me through the process and get me up to speed quicker by having this guided selection process. And so in this example that we have, we're going to start off asking them a capability or a capacity question of maybe how much they need to lift, and then based off that option, there may be other choices available. One of the things that you'll notice as I make different selections on the right-hand side, we're going to utilize that area to provide additional help or information. In this case, it might be a product image. It could be an accessory or other type of help information that we'll take a look at. As I make the first selection, I then have some fuel options, might make a selection there, and in this case it notifies me right away that based on the selections that I've made, that natural gas either might not be a great option or it may not even be allowed, depending. So I have some information that helps me and guides me through that process. I might choose gasoline instead. Next, have a battery choice. If I need a little help about the battery, I can use the hover over message to find out information to help me. But one of the things that you'll notice is as I change my fuel type, the battery choices automatically filter to only provide valid selections. So I can never make an incorrect selection. I can't pick things that don't work together or that you just don't want to build. It'll automatically handle that with any types of rules and validations that you like. So I continue on. I have some other choices about the fork length and the tires. In this case, the fork length defaulted automatically to maybe the common size, so I don't even have to change that unless I want to. Also here I see a few different of the most common sizes that are typically used. But I do also have the option to maybe do a special size. If I choose special, in this case it opens up another option that shows me some other sizes that I could choose from, or it could even allow me to request even a totally different size. So the system is very dynamic, providing information that makes sense based on my options, and I could go back and forth, and again you'll see that special removed automatically. I might also want to switch over and look at other details about the product. In this case, I see that there's a base price based on some of the information. I also have a battery price. As I choose tires, we'll see that price get added in, and I can see the total. So as I'm going through the configuration, I can see what effects, what different selections might affect on pricing, discounts, other options, and so on. So it provides a lot of nice information for me to just go through and see what different pricing options there might be as I'm going through the configuration. I could be doing this with the customer and helping them through that process. You'll also notice that here I have some options and accessories that I might choose. Notice the backup warning light is already selected. But in this case, any information can be presented to the user. You can lay that out however you like. You can have as much information as you want on one tab with a variety of different user interface options, whether those are drop-downs, radio buttons, images. You have a lot of nice controls and options there. As well, you can split the information up onto multiple tabs however you like to make it easy for the user to go through the configuration process. So I might choose a couple of additional options. If I uncheck the backup warning, it's going to give me an alert or a notification that says this is really important. Again, this might be mandatory or maybe just highly recommended depending upon the rules and the logic. So I'm going to choose a few additional options. You'll notice this. Updating my pricing based off of the selections that I have. I can go through this configuration process as quick as I'd like. I can go through as many details, or I can take my time and walk through it to make sure I have everything exactly right. But once I'm happy with the configuration, we'll finish that. and it's going to return all this information back. And again, as we said, it wants to create that job, that bill of material and routing, to build what the customer just asked for. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on this screen just looking at some of the things that it returned back. So of course our configured price is now returned so that we know exactly what we need to charge the customer for this product. It's also returned a description. In this case, it's kind of a code or a string. You can do anything you like while building custom notes or descriptions in there. We also had it create some notes in the system, and in this case we just returned some of the main information from configuration so that any time that someone wanted to go in and look at the notes, they could see different things that were selected. So a lot of different options and capabilities there. You'll also notice right here on the source screen, you can see that we've created a job now to build that automatically, and I see a quick little preview of some of the operations that were generated. I'm next going to take a look at the bill of material and the routing. So I'm going to, right from here, I'm going to drill in, of course, if I have permissions, which I do, but I'll just use the source button to drill in. And we'll examine this job in a little more detail that was created for the forklift. Now, of course, I could use a variety of different screens. I could use the engineering workbench if I like. I might also just use some of the detail forms that we'll take a look at. But in this case, the important thing to note is the bill of material and the routing that we see here was all generated based on configuration. So the forklift itself in CloudSuite Industrial, in Sightline, it doesn't have a bill of material and routing. It's completely empty. But the system figured out, the configurator figured out that these are the routing steps that we're going to need, and these are the different materials that might be required at each particular operation step. So just to drill into that a little bit more, I'm going to first go into the operations and just note that logic determines which operations are going to be required, what work center is going to be used. That can all vary based on configuration, and then various times, like maybe the setup time varies based on some of the selections, or the run time might change. So anything in here can be built or determined based off of configuration information. So as I move through the different steps, you can see all the values changing for all of my work steps. And really the same thing holds true at my bill of material. I'll just drill into that. Just move this over a little bit, take a look at some of the materials that were included. But here you see a variety of different parts. Just kind of going through, you'll notice that it has a gasoline fuel tank. It has a particular battery that we selected, the steel forks that are 42 inches. So everything was very specific based on the selections that were made. Now, it included other things in here that, you know, we just need to build this. So the user didn't have to choose all of these things. But the system determined what all of the different parts are, what the quantities are going to be needed, and so on. So if you think about that process, basically we went from a customer order, gathering information, it automatically validated everything, it priced everything, and then automatically generated my bill of material and routing so that we can, in theory, start to build this. Now, of course, you could plan it, you could schedule it, you could do all those things, but in just seconds or minutes, we've automated that process to be ready to manufacture exactly what the customer just asked for. I want to show one other option. So I've gone back to my customer order line where I just created all of this, put all this information into the system. Maybe I was doing that with the customer on the phone, or maybe they faxed or emailed it in. But maybe right after that, let's say the customer changed their mind, or they said, oh, you know, I forgot something, or I need to make a quick change. Well, I can see right back here that the configuration has already been completed, but I do have the option to go back into it. So I can relaunch the configuration. You'll notice that all of the prior information is all retained. It's exactly the way I configured it last time, but they could make certain changes. So maybe they wanted to change the battery in this case. I could make a change there. I could also add on some additional accessories, as many different features or options. Maybe I'll just put a bunch of them in here as some examples. Obviously, it's updating all of my pricing information, and I can process that change through. It's going to regenerate my job and all of my information. So everything is going to be updated. I have new pricing now based on the new configuration. I have, you know, the notes updated, the description updated, and if I drill into my bill of material, we're going to see that my bill of material now has a bunch of different options in it as well. And I just go back to that list view here. And here, of course, you can see all of the different parts now that are going to be required for all of those different accessories that the user asked for. So that was an example of one type of product where the user can select various options and accessories. What I thought I would do now is take a look at another product just to give you another example. You're going to see similar things, but in a different type of a product. So I'm just going to put another line item on here. Of course, I could have standard items mixed in with configured items as well. But this is one of our other kind of standard demos that we show many times. I'm going to launch into configuration of this door in this case, and it's going to lead me through the options and selections. So just like before, I have choices of material, maybe some stain colors. We might utilize the area on the right to show more information about some of those options. We'll notice how it's automatically filtering my selections and helping me through those configuration processes and options. If I need a little bit of help, I might click on a help link. That'll bring up some more information about those options that might help me make a particular choice or option. I could choose some different options for the profile or the style. I could also maybe visually see what those look like so I can have a very rich and graphical experience to help me choose what options I might be interested in. One of the things, for example, is this product is very dimensional. Last product was very much option-based, where this product has a lot of different things like sizes and lengths and widths, or could have radiuses and OD and ID and those types of things. But just to look at a few different things in this example, this product comes in ranges of sizes, and the system has automatically built what my possible ranges are. And so I can scroll through and see any of those, or I could just enter the size that I'm interested in right from here. Or we can also have free-form fields where the user is able to just type in whatever they like. In this case, I might input some information about that particular size, and in this case, again, it's going to validate and give me that message about what my valid options are. Over here on the right-hand side, you're actually seeing one of the other components that I mentioned early on, which is our design automation. So instead of just showing images of the product, in this case, we're actually dynamically generating a 2D drawing based off the configuration. So as the user makes selections in configuration, it's on the fly regenerating this particular drawing based on whatever options that I put in. So as I change the width, we'll see it automatically regenerate this option or image based on the width that I enter, or the height, or any of the different features that we're interested in this case. And I could do things like moving the location of this particular rail around. I could include dimensions in here as well. So now I have kind of a dimension drawing with all of the different sizes. Again, as I go through and make some changes, we can see how the system is automatically regenerating this particular image for me based off of all of those particular details. So this provides both some nice visual validation for the user. As they're configuring, they can see exactly what the product's going to look like, as well as we can provide this information to the customer so they have a detailed drawing that, again, was generated automatically based on the configuration. Similar options where the system is building up pricing based on a variety of different logic, might be using different types of tables or formulas and calculations to come up with the pricing based on my overall sizes of configuration. Again, all very dynamic. Again, as I make any changes, it'll automatically recalculate everything for me. And then finally, I might have some additional options where I could choose some hardware in this case. I may have different quantities of hardware that I want to see how that's going to look, different sizes of what that hardware might be, some locations. I also have this option to, if I wanted to ship things separately, I'll go ahead and choose that, and that will generate some additional line items for me. And then finally, if I wanted to actually generate new items in the item master, I have that option as well. Might just leave that off for now. And I'll process this configuration. Again, very similar. It's going to automatically create my routing and bill of material with all of that information. Just like before, we've returned some information. We've actually attached that drawing that was generated, so that gets attached to the order, to the job, to manufacturing. It could have all those dimensions on it as well. And likewise, I have my routing and bill of material that we can take a quick look at. But one of the things, again, very similar to what we've seen, it's going to be a detailed routing and bill of material, but some of the steps are going to be based on those selections that we've made. But if I go into some of the materials, I just wanted to point out some things like it's calculating the quantity, in this case, of the material that I'm going to need. And then we also have generated specific manufacturing instructions to tell the user exactly what they need to do, that of course would print off on paperwork, or they could just view it on the screen at any time. So for each, in this case, for each particular level at each place, we're calculating the material quantity as well as calculating my instructions for how they need to do it. So those were a few different examples of different types of products. Oh, I guess I should also just mention back here that on my door example, where we generated that information, we did also generate additional line items for the products that they wanted to ship separately. So that option that I selected had the hardware broken out to where it's going to create the different hardware that each one is going to be shipped versus being on the bill of material. So just one other sort of option or capability that we had talked about. But here you've seen two different examples, something in building products, a forklift, a piece of equipment or machinery. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have many different customers and many different industries where this process or this product will help very quickly guide a user through the options, validating that everything is correct, pricing it, and then automatically generating all of the downstream manufacturing information. So I think the last thing I wanted to do today was just spend a couple of minutes looking at the setup environment behind the scenes a little bit, so into the configurator setup, because obviously this tool provides a lot of value for our manufacturers, but it's also important that it's easy to set up and that it's easy to maintain, and you're not having to be a developer to design and set the configurations up and all of those things that you saw. So we have our tool, which is called Design Studio, and that Design Studio is a graphical tool that allows you to manage and maintain everything dealing with configuration. So it has a very simple user experience, easy for the user to navigate around. I might look at lists of choices, or I might want to move to different tables, but I can very simply navigate to different parts of configuration with the accordions. And of course, our rule sets are going to be our products, where you can have different types of products, where just like I saw the wood door, I can find the wood door just by entering a few characters. Or if I wanted to go back to the forklift example, I've got some options there, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the forklift. And when I do that, over here in the middle of the screen, this is really the main part of configuration, and it's set up in a flowchart, so a graphical flowchart. So if you remember back to the forklift, we had capacity questions, we had fuel, battery, fork length. So just like you saw in the user experience, it's set up exactly the same way. And we have things for pricing, different charges here. We looked at that message for natural gas that may or may not be available. So all of the logic of the configuration is designed in this graphical flowchart that is completely unlimited. You can have as little or as much in configuration as you need. Some products might be very simple. Other products might be extremely complex with large flowcharts. Over here on the left is where we have our different instructions or our rules. So we have different types of rules. As noticed here in the flowchart, you see all the different icons. We have different instructions for doing different things. This allows you to be very creative, very flexible, also very robust in providing that configuration experience, because you're able to set it up the way that you want for your particular product. Just to name a few instructions, we have input screens. So anytime we need to get input from the user, we have those messages, whether those are validation messages or warning messages or just information or suggestions. A lot of times we use these to upsell and cross-sell different options during configuration as well. We then have formulas and calculations and variables. You can see those used in a variety of places. And then, of course, we have a condition branch that creates basically a branch where you might go through and do some things. So in this case, I was checking to see if they asked for a special fork length, and if they did, we did a few things inside of that branch. Otherwise, we skipped back. And so one of the important things here about the tool is, again, the setup is very simple and easy, and it's very easy for me to build my configurations the first time. It's also very easy to maintain the configurations as your product changes, as you get new options or new selections, or really anything changes. This is the experience to do that. So in this case, I brought up my existing forklift example. If I wanted to add something to it, I can just grab an instruction and drag it in and drop it wherever I like that new instruction to go. and then I can fill in some details about what that instruction might need to do over here on the right side. So again, no programming, no language that you have to learn, just using this graphical tool to set that up. This also allows me to move things around to get the configuration to work exactly the way that I want it to. So over time, as we're working on different things, we may want to make some adjustments, and all that's done just by moving things around to get the experience that you need. There's many different capabilities in here. There are simple options. We then have some more robust instructions. So if you get into very complicated types of things in your configuration environments, we have concepts like loops that allow you to go through and loop through structures. We also have sub-configurations or subcomponents. We talked about that at the beginning, is the ability to have configured sub-assemblies, and we have instructions that allow me to do just that. We have a lot of nice formulas and options built in here, but we also have the ability to call an external program just as an option. So if for some reason you wanted to call some other function or program or something else, you can do that right inside of configuration. And then also we have our different types of instructions for generating the bill of material and routing, some of the 2D things that we saw, document generation, and so forth. So it's all built in this exact same kind of graphical environment. So just to summarize a little bit, right, the configuration is a really nice tool when your customers are able to whether it's assemble to order, build to order, configure to order, or even engineer to order, the tool fits in and allows an easy process for your salespeople, your customer service people to go through and create quotes and orders, and then dynamically build all of the manufacturing information right inside Sightline. And then also you have other options in the suite that we talked about at the very beginning. So Wendy, that's really what I had from a presentation standpoint. Don't know if there's any questions that came in so far.
That was great. Thank you, Scott. We do have a couple of questions, and just as a reminder, if you have a question, you can enter it in that questions box on your webinar toolbar. So we had 2 questions so far, Scott. The first is, are there certain versions of Sightline you have to run CPQ?
Yes. So the standard integration of CPQ with Sightline came out in Sightline version 8. So 8.0 and forward all has the ability to use CPQ. We do have I believe we have a few customers on, let's say, version 7 that did some tailored integration, but 8 and forward.
Okay, great. One other one, can we make the configurator available to outside dealers? So I think they're talking probably about the, yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so I'll just go back to this slide real quick and talk about a few different options on this particular slide. I guess I can go into presentation mode. But so the first option is if you have users that are, like you mentioned, dealers, distributors that need to be able to quote configured products. That really is exactly what this sales portal is intended for. And we'd be happy to, in a follow-up session, be happy to get into the details of that. But that is exactly what the sales portal is used for sales reps, dealers, distributors, different types of users like that, to be able to launch that exact same configurator. So we saw basically Sightline launching the product configurator. I can do a very similar thing from the sales portal, web-enabled, to let different people launch the configurator, generate documents, and on and on. The only other thing I'd like to mention, though, is you also could use the configurator in other ways, or it could be integrated into other things. So, for example, some of our customers put the configurator right on their website. So if just someone happened to hit their website and they wanted to learn about the product a little bit and see what some of their options are, just from a interest generation or a lead building, they'd actually just embed it or have a little link that goes right, lets an anonymous user just launch in and configure. Now, at the end of that, they might recommend that they locate a dealer or be contacted by a customer, so they use it for that interest generation, but that's certainly a capability as well.
Perfect, thank you. It looks like those are all of the questions we have today. If you have other questions following the webinar, we will be following up with an email, and we'll be sharing the recording as well. Also, feel free to reach out to your rep at Decision Resources. Most of you work with John Titus or Jason Snar, and I'm sure they'll be following up with everyone who's attending the webinar. Thank you very much, Scott.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Wendy.
Okay, that concludes our webinar for today.